What's up, my friend? Welcome back to another video, and today I'm super excited to share a project that I had the pleasure of working on recently for Roomie Official. And for some reason, if you don't know Roomie Official, he is a singer-songwriter on YouTube. His YouTube channel is, at the time of this recording, just above 7.5 million subscribers, so he's definitely pretty well known in the songwriting industry, and it was really just an honor and a pleasure to be able to produce a track for him. And in case you're wondering how I got the gig in the first place, I have to give a big shout out to my friend Austin from Make Pop Music. Rumi actually reached out to Austin, and Austin basically referred the project to me because he thought it was more up my wheelhouse. And so, Austin, I just want to give you a big thank you, big shout out to Make Pop Music. Thank you so much. Super appreciated. But yeah, let me just explain really quickly what I did for this project, what Joel, that's Rumi's name, Joel, what he was looking for. So he had this Christian song called Above All, and he essentially wanted a cover of this Christian song, and he needed me to create a sound-alike version. So basically listen to the original and then produce a replica, if you will, of that original. And it's basically piano balanced, piano heavy. There's some pads, there's some strings, there's really beautiful arpeggiation and some additional instrumentation. So I really took it on as a challenge to really just try to replicate that to the best of my ability. And I'm super happy with the results. So I really want to share it with you. And before we really dive into the orchestration and the arrangement, though, in case you're interested in my personal orchestration process, step by step, I want to give you a totally free guide outlining exactly what I do for every single project where I have to orchestrate for virtual instruments. It's a 5-step process, so if you follow every single one, you'll go from the initial idea, the initial sketch, to the completed orchestration. And it is just a framework that you can follow for every single project you do with virtual instruments. So it's totally free. If you want to click the first link in the description box below, you can download that as my gift to you for watching this video. So let's kind of dive in. Let me just maybe play through the track once. You'll see there's a hard cutoff here at bar 29, and that's just because I was following the original track BPM of 67 beats per minute, and he essentially just wanted the intro all the way up to the end of the first chorus, and that was it. That's all I needed for the video. And so I'll play through it, you'll hear what it sounds like, and then we'll kind of break it down a little bit. Here we go.
Above all powers, above all kings, above all nature and all created things, above all wisdom and all the ways of man. You were here before the world began. Above all kingdoms, above all thrones, above all wonders the world has ever known, above all wealth and treasures of the earth. There's no way to measure what you're worth. Crucified, lay behind the stone, you lived to die, rejected and alone, like a rose trampled on the ground. You took the fall and thought of me above all.
And that's it, right? So you can hear it's a very mellow but also passionate song, especially in the chorus. Let me just break down exactly what was going on here. By the way, if you want to hear what the original version of Above All sounds like, definitely search it up here on YouTube. You can get a good sense of that, and then we'll kind of go into my rendition here. So overall, it is a piano-based song, so that's exactly where I wanted to start. I'm just going to open this up a bit here. And all of these MIDI files at the top were what I started with, and then I bounced everything down to audio and color coded it, hence why you see these separate tracks, which look like duplicates of the MIDI files above here. But let me just show you what instruments we actually used here. I'm going to open up Contact, And here we go. So for the basic piano effect, the piano foundation, I wanted to use Noir because I like that intimate sound that Noir gives, and I use the pure sound here. And then for the actual animation of it, I wanted it to be kind of fun and light. So if I just solo the piano, you hear how the engine's doing some little animation with the particles engine, right? So I'm just playing chords with more like open voicings. Let me take a look here. Right. So I'm kind of filling up like the mid-range around middle C, but you see as I go lower, I'm also opening up, so I'm doing more octaves down below. Again, that follows the rules of the harmonic series. It gives you more room to play with for the other instruments as well. Very, very important there if you want a clean, open mix. And then after that, as an orchestral guy, I had to have some strings in there, so I used the CSS first violins as kind of a little extra layer on top. And I believe I put that in, what color? I put that in blue, actually. So violins here. I think I did that more, yeah, in the second half here. So you can hear how it's really quiet. I especially wanted to bring it out a little bit in the chorus as kind of that upper layer. And then we also have the cellos here, which are kind of harmonizing with one another. Then I wanted to bring in Vivaldi tremolos as well, because I just love how the Vivaldi tremolos from Cine Org really give you that motion, that tension, and I kind of use it as a bed under my arrangement rather than using it as an upfront layer, if you will. Then I also had a couple other orchestral elements here, horns, flute, and female ooze, as I used as the background of this track. So let's have a listen to these really quickly. So the ooze are a little bit higher, the female choir, but the horns are about an octave lower, so that fills up kind of the mid-range there. Then we have the flute playing some nice harmony to the main melody, interacting with the rest of the instruments here as well. Layer that in with the piano. So already just here, just the piano and the orchestral instruments, that gives you that orchestral foundation that you need. Right? And then after that, I knew I needed to have the synthetic or the electronic elements, right? So those ones are super important to keep intact as well, and these played more of the foundational role. So I have a sine pluck here that Austin very kindly designed for me, and I basically did a bit of ping pong back and forth effect. I think I did it with automation here if we take a look. Let me just see, sine pluck, EQ. Oh, sorry, yes, this is because it's the audio file. If we take a look at the actual MIDI file, the sine pluck, there we go. If we look at the tremolo plugin included in Logic, all I had to do was press hard panning under the settings here, under the templates, presets, I should say. And then, yeah, basically it allowed the sound to basically bounce back and forth from left to right. So if we listen one more time to this. You can hear it jumps from left to right, right? And that's what the original was doing as well. So that gives you that stereo field. And then on top of that, I have a high pad, right? Another pad here for it's called Meditate. And then the keys in space were just an extra layer on top of the original Noir piano. So that gives it some nice depth as well. If you combine that with the orchestral elements, which are in light blue, now you get this nice hybrid sound, right? So you get the electronic with the acoustic. I love that sound. And then I wanted to put in the lower elements as well. So guitar, sub bass, Fender bass. Now you get that foundation, right? That harmonic foundation, those bass notes that are so important. Add the piano back in, and then percussion. Let's actually hear the chorus one more time. And most of these instruments were from Cineperk. Cineperk core, you can see triangle, Mark tree, mids and high, clacks and stuff. I also have the musical sampling Medusa drums here, playing more of the kicks. Really like that library. And then Elijah for the pads. you can see the steady drum groove there. And then finally the vocal. Right. So actually a very simple arrangement. I don't have more than 20 tracks of instruments altogether. You really don't need it for a song that's a little simpler with an arrangement that's more acoustic in general with a few electronic elements. Like, you really don't need to overcomplicate things. And you might be asking, like, how did you process the vocal? Like, what did you do with the mix? Let's get into that really quickly. First of all, I applied an EQ to most of the instruments because some of them needed, some cuts, maybe a little high shelf boost or something. And I basically went through one instrument at a time and I cut what I thought was necessary or unnecessary and then boosted up a little bit of what was necessary. After doing that, I went through, brought all the faders down to 0 or minus infinity, and then I brought them up one at a time. So I did a static mix like that to make sure the instruments were sitting properly. Of course, making sure the vocal was up front and center, which is right here. Okay. Then after I did the static mix, then I did my top-down mixing. So I added an EQ first, just to take out some of those mids a little bit. Used a bit of mix-centric from Waves that just brightened up the overall mix beautifully. Logic's compressor, just, you can see 1.5 to 1 ratio, so it's doing very, very little to the overall thing, but just pushing down on those high peaks a tad. A bit of tone-centric for the analog touch, and then I originally had the Valhalla Room for even more cohesive gel, but Roomie actually asked me to turn that back just a little bit, so I did. And then finally, I put on a limiter just to bring up the overall volume of the entire thing. Put on about 12 on the imager, so increase the stereo width of the overall track a little bit, and then a little bit of EQ you can see to brighten up the highs, take out some of the lows, and there we go. Yeah, but for the vocal itself, I wanted to apply a little bit more processing. So we have EQ, we have the RVox compressor from Waves, we have Gregwell's voice-centric, turned it up about halfway there, and then finally a little bit of Valhalla Room as well. But yeah, it was pretty well recorded anyway, so I didn't have to do too much. So let's have a listen maybe one more time to the chorus so we see what that sounds like.
Crucified, laid behind the stone, you lived to die, rejected and alone, like a rose trampled on the ground. You took the fall and thought of me above all.
Yeah, and of course, when you're going through a mix and you're trying to make sure all the balances are correct, you're inevitably going to have moments where some instruments poke up too much or, come down a little bit and they're not heard well enough, right? So I kind of went through and did some automation here for the volume just to make sure that certain words didn't poke out too much and distracted your attention. So basically leveling out the volume and making sure it was as smooth as possible. But yeah, overall super fun project. I think over the course of 2 weeks, we were dialoguing back and forth from initial idea to completed production. And yeah, Joel's a super nice guy. Really a pleasure to work with. And yeah, excited to see if we'll do some more work in the future. But hopefully that kind of gave you an insight into this project. Thank you so much for watching. Definitely an opportunity I will remember for a long time. And again, big thanks to Austin from Make Pop Music for letting me do this. I really appreciate it, man. But yeah, thank you so much again. And if you're interested in my personal orchestration process of how I actually look at a blank canvas and build the instruments from start to finish, one step at a time, then I want to give you that digestible PDF guide down below. It's called Orchestration Essentials. Super didactic, super digestible. You can read it within like 5 minutes, honestly. And I'll give you basically a framework to follow for your next mockup if you're working with virtual instruments and you want to put in the orchestra. That just shows you my personal 5-step approach when it comes to this sort of thing. So I hope you enjoy it. Again, it's my gift to you, so feel free to download it for free below, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.